Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, I want you to picture this for a second. You run a wildly successful European company. You've done literally everything by the book. Your data is sitting securely on servers in Frankfurt, and you are rigorously compliant with the GDPR. But then, out of nowhere, bam, you get hit with a U.S. Cloud Act warrant from American law enforcement demanding you hand over your user data. So what do? It's a massive legal headache, and honestly, businesses are facing this exact nightmare every single day.
Let's quickly run through our agenda so we can break this massive issue down. First, we'll look at the transatlantic data trap. Second, the Article 48 conflict. Third, the two-step decision process. Fourth, the legitimate interest dilemma. Fifth, vital interests. And finally, solving the impossible choice.
So, we are putting you firmly in the hot seat today. And hey, this isn't just some abstract whiteboard theory. If you think this is purely a corporate problem, just look at the geopolitical realities right now. In 2025, reports actually came out that the International Criminal Court's chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, temporarily lost access to his Microsoft-hosted email because of U.S. sanctions. Think about that. If U.S. policy can disrupt the essential cloud services of a massive international body, your business's data is definitely not immune.
All right, kicking things off with Part 1, the transatlantic data trap and the massive scale of this vulnerability.
Get this, 70%. It is absolutely crucial to understand that Amazon, Microsoft, and Google together control roughly 70% of the entire European cloud market. And here's the kicker. Jurisdiction follows the provider, not just the physical server. So because these mega providers are subject to U.S. law, this legal trap affects a vast majority of Europe's entire digital infrastructure, even if that data literally never leaves Europe.
And right here is the core of your dilemma. You are caught in a brutal double bind. On one side, you've got the U.S. Cloud Act demanding that American companies produce data under their control, no matter where in the world it happens to be stored. On the flip side, the EU's GDPR strictly demands that you protect personal data from unauthorized access and unlawful transfers. So complying with the U.S. demand immediately triggers a GDPR violation, but refusing it, well, that triggers severe U.S. legal penalties.
Moving on to Part 2, Article 48 and the conflict. This is essentially the brick wall preventing a simple handover.
The European Commission makes it crystal clear. A unilateral foreign court order from the U.S. is just not a valid legal basis to transfer data out of Europe. This is strictly governed by GDPR Article 48. Put simply, a U.S. judge signing a warrant means absolutely nothing under European data protection law all by itself. You cannot just pack up the data and ship it across the Atlantic.
So how is this actually supposed to work? Well, to legally move data, U.S. authorities are supposed to use an MLAT, a Mutual Legal Assistance Treaty. Think of this as the official legal bridge that ensures European legal standards are fully respected during the transfer. It places the whole request squarely under the supervision of EU courts. But the Cloud Act? It was specifically designed to bypass this totally legitimate but often lengthy MLAT process, dumping the burden directly onto you, the provider.
Which brings us to Part 3, the two-step decision process for evaluating the request. The European Data Protection Board actually provides an official flowchart for handling these exact demands. If you choose to bypass that MLAT process, you have to pass a really rigid two-step test. Step 1, you must find a lawful basis under GDPR Article 6 for the processing itself. If and only if you survive that step, you move to Step 2, justifying a specific derogation, basically an exception for the international transfer under Article 49. But as we're about to see, passing both of these steps is incredibly tough for a private company. And that leads right into Part 4, the legitimate interest dilemma, which is one seriously difficult legal balancing act.
Now, you might be thinking, hey, my legitimate interest is definitely not getting sanctioned by the U.S. government, so I should just hand the data over, right? Well, the EDPB says no way. Relying on your legitimate interest fails for a few big reasons. First off, these U.S. warrants often come with strict gag orders, meaning you can't even tell your user it's happening. It also totally abandons the dual criminality principle that protects citizens. At the end of the day, private operators just cannot fairly balance a user's fundamental rights while operating under a secretive U.S. gag order. You're a business, not a court of law.
Let's look at Part 5, vital interests. The one exception where bypassing an MLAT is actually justified.
So, if your business interests aren't enough to justify it, is there any legal escape hatch where you can hand over the data immediately without an MLAT? Actually, yes, but it is incredibly narrow. The only time you can bypass an MLAT without taking on massive legal risk is for what the GDPR calls vital interests. We are literally talking about an imminent threat to life or physical integrity, a true, real-time emergency, like a kidnapped child. In those highly specific, undeniable emergencies, you can lawfully produce the data to save someone's life.
But make no mistake, European regulators take a real hardline stance here. The EDPB explicitly warns that these vital interest exceptions are narrow and have to be interpreted strictly. The exception must never, ever become the rule. You absolutely cannot use it as a convenient loophole for standard day-to-day law enforcement requests. Finally, Part 6, solving the impossible choice through an architectural resolution.
Okay, so if the legal doors to simply handing over the data are slammed shut by the GDPR, and the US is threatening you with sanctions under the Cloud Act, how do you actually resolve this impossible choice? The answer isn't in some cleverly worded legal contract. You don't out-lawyer them, you outbuild them. The only true escape is architectural. You need a single-tenant, European deployment paired directly with customer-controlled encryption. If you, the European customer, hold the encryption keys strictly on your own hardware, totally outside of US infrastructure, the US provider becomes technically incapable of producing readable data. They literally can't hand over what they physically cannot access. This satisfies the US requirement because they can't produce what they don't have while perfectly satisfying the GDPR by preventing unauthorized access. It's brilliant. And this really shows why data sovereignty isn't just some compliance checkbox on a procurement form anymore. It requires a fundamental restructuring of how and exactly where your data is stored. It requires physical and architectural controls that make unauthorized access technically, mathematically impossible.
Understanding all the mechanisms in this explainer is absolutely crucial for your company's operational survival and legal compliance. You really can't just sign a standard contract and hope the conflict magically goes away. But zooming out beyond just the corporate level, it leaves us with a massive, genuinely provocative question. As geopolitical tensions continue to rise, who will ultimately control the architecture of our global digital commons? Will it be defined by overreaching extraterritorial laws or by the unyielding laws of encryption and physics? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this gives you the tools you need to navigate the transatlantic data trap.